ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaste my dear friends, this is 19th video on Gita. So it starts with the heading Turn Actions into Yoga. Every action that is offered to the Lord and is performed without any personal interest becomes a holy sacrifice and can be considered as yoga. But when an action is performed with a personal interest in the action and its results, then it is nothing but roga, which in Sanskrit means disease. The root cause of all such disease is attachment. From attachment follows hatred and anger. These are the demons that will hide all your human qualities. It is the same for everyone. Once attachment and hatred begin to show themselves in you, they encourage all the demonic tendencies and you forget your true human nature. Therefore, Krishna commanded Arjuna, perform your actions free from all attachments. Be impersonal. When you perform actions without having any personal interest, the fruit of these actions will not touch you. That is how I rule over all the three worlds. Can you not rule over even one little body that way? Develop the firm faith that when you remain disinterested in the rewards, you will be able to achieve many great tasks. But when you have attachment to the result of a task, you will be subject to disappointment. If you get the fruits you expected, you will be overjoyed. If you do not succeed, you will be worried. Try to control this sense of dejection and elation. Become truly wise. Do not allow yourself to be subjected to these wavering feelings of elation and dejection. There is no human being who is not engaged in actions. Every person has a human body for the express purpose of performing actions. To sanctify the body, you have to perform only good actions. For every action, there will be a fruit. You should realize that the joy which you get in performing an action is much greater than the joy you get from the fruit of the action. For example, on an auspicious religious festival, a family may choose to be together throughout the night with other devotees, relatives and friends to sing the devotional songs. As long as they are engaged in their practice and involved in their ceremonies, they are unaware of any feeling of fatigue. Even if some of them were suffering from fever, they would not mind. They would be completely absorbed in the function. During that period, when they are immersed in their practice, no one feels tired. But when you visit this family soon after the function is over, you find them all looking rather weary. The joy of doing is greater than the joy of the rewards. You get joy while performing an action, but you do not experience joy to the same extent after the action is completed. You are simply deluded by the feeling that there is some joy in the fruit of the action, but truly speaking, there is no joy whatsoever in the fruit. The joy which you believe you get from the fruit is only a reflection. It is a shadow of the real joy. It is just a phantom joy. It is not the permanent joy that you are seeking. When the actions themselves are temporary and transient, how can the fruits derived from them be anything more than fleeting shadows? Perhaps you feel that by performing acts of charity or by doing good, involving yourself in good causes, participating in auspicious events or by engaging in various acts of personal sacrifice, you will earn heavenly rewards. However, Krishna declared that heaven is only temporary. He said, Arjuna, there is something which is far greater than heaven. Of course, you should always be good. I am not saying that you should stop performing good deeds, sacrifices, austerities, religious rituals, and the like. It is not only your right but your duty to continue with such good actions, but do everything you do with only the welfare of the whole world in mind. Do not act with any selfish motive. Perform every action selflessly, disinterestedly, concerned only with the peace, welfare, and prosperity of all living beings everywhere. Do not be concerned with reaching heaven. Set your sight on a much higher goal beyond heaven. Heaven will last only as long as the merits of your actions last. Once these merits are exhausted, you will have to come back to earth. Therefore, give up your longing for heaven, which is temporary and impermanent. Cultivate nearness and dearness to the Lord. Become merged in Him. That's what is truly important. The principle of divinity is greater than heaven. When you understand the secret of actions and perform all your actions from the proper perspective, you will be able to acquire the divinity itself. The Gita brings the highest wisdom into daily life. The Gita has not asked you to renounce all worldly activities and become a sannyasi, a wandering mendicant. Some people are under the impression that the Gita should not be taught to children, for the youngsters might get a notion to renounce the world and go to the forest. Many people suffer from such wrong impressions. But consider the great number of people who have been teaching the Gita. Are they all sannyasis? Have they renounced all the things of the world? Did Arjuna, who heard the Gita directly from Krishna, become a sannyasi? The inner significance of the Gita has to be understood in the context of human nature as it is expressed in the world, in the everyday activities of people. The most important objective of the Gita is to bring down the priceless ancient wisdom to the level of the mundane world and raise worldly life to the level of the highest wisdom. The Gita brings down Vedanta into daily life and elevates daily life to the level of Vedanta. It not only introduces philosophy and spirituality into daily life, but it also introduces daily life into philosophy and spirituality. Hence, it reconciles spirituality and daily life. Human existence does not just involve the daily secular activities. It is not meant at all for just eking out a livelihood. The Gita teaches the sanctity of human life. It directs man to his ultimate goal. It teaches him how to make his livelihood in the world in a way that enables him to transcend the human condition and in a way that does not bind him to further human births. You will not be bound by your actions when they are performed selflessly, without any interest in the fruits. The Gita teaches you to develop non-attachment to all your activities, duties, and possessions. What actually happens by having this attitude of detachment is that your actions become sacred. The Gita does not encourage you to renounce work. On the contrary, it encourages you to do your duty and perform all the activities appropriate to your status in life. But you must transform all these actions into sacred works by offering them to the Lord. For example, consider the work of a cook. Cooks perform their duties properly and do their job well when they keep their mind on the cooking. If instead they do everything keeping only the wages in view, then they will not have much interest in their work and the cooking will not be good. Cooking should be performed with a sense of love and absorption in the work and with the welfare of all in mind, without concern for the monetary rewards. Then it becomes a sacred and pure service that nourishes and sanctifies. In the same way, when you perform your assigned duties, whatever they are, with full concentration on the work, offering it to the divinity and without any personal interest in the fruit, then your actions become sacred and grand. With this feeling of disinterestedness in the fruits, your work becomes steady and you will also progress steadily forward towards your goal. But when you have a personal interest in the work that you are performing, there will be ups and downs. Fickleness will develop and your desires will quickly grow. Krishna held out King Janaka as an ideal person because he ruled his kingdom with this sense of detachment and thereby attained perfection. There are some people who have only outward vision. There are others who have developed inward vision. Outward vision sees only the illusory world outside. Inward vision transforms the mind and fills the heart with sacred feelings. In order to gain inner vision, you have to develop this quality of absorption in the work and detachment from the results, offering everything you do to the divinity within. There is a story to illustrate the great spiritual power of this lofty practice. Janaka and Sukha. Once in the age previous to Krishna and Arjuna, the young sage Sukha had entered King Janaka's kingdom and was traveling in the neighborhood of the capital city. King Janaka heard that Sukha was in the vicinity but did not know where Sukha chose to make his camp. The king sent out messengers in all directions to get news of the Sukha's whereabouts. They located Sukha living in a shelter in a forest near the capital city. Janaka along with his ministers went to visit Sukha. Janaka did not go there as king or ruler, he went as a servant of the Lord. Janaka had long ago removed all traces of ego and now went as a humble spiritual seeker. Sukha was giving a discourse to his disciples on a spiritual topic. During this discourse, Janaka stood and listened with full concentration. Evening came. Before he left, Janaka went to Sukha and asked, Swami, may I come every day and experience your inspiring discourses? Sukha replied, Janaka, spirituality and philosophy are not anyone's private property. Whoever has the interest, whoever enjoys listening to these teachings, whoever believes in reaching the goal has a right to this knowledge. Certainly you may come. You are most welcome. Janaka went back to his palace and returned each day to attend the discourses. Now Sukha wanted to demonstrate to the world that King Janaka had inward vision, whereas most people have only outward vision. With this in mind, he moved to a spot on the crest of a hill overlooking the capital city and made his camp there. From this place, he continued his daily discourses on Vedanta. One particular day, King Janaka, because of some urgent responsibilities of administration, was delayed in coming there. Sukha purposely held up starting his discourse until Janaka had arrived. Sukha took no cognizance of the large gathering of people that were already assembled there, waiting for the discourse to comment. To demonstrate his interest, Sukha started asking questions of this person and that, trying to find out why King Janaka had not come. He also told some people to go and find out what had delayed the king. He himself stood on the roadside and watched for the royal party to arrive. At this, some murmur began among the people there. The disciples, the elders and youngsters who had assembled there began whispering among themselves. One said, look at Sukha. He is considered to be such a great sage who has renounced everything, but it does not seem to be true. Here he is waiting for King Janaka just because Janaka is an important ruler. Sukha is not paying any attention to us and does not seem to care about starting the discourse. Another person said, look at this peculiar behavior of Sukha. Why does he show so much partiality to kings? For a sage, should there be any difference in his feelings for a king and for others? Now Sukha noted all this talk, what was going on. In fact, it was with the intention of teaching them a good lesson that He had conducted himself this way. Half an hour passed, 2 hours passed. Sukha continued to wait for Janaka to come. He did not make any attempt to start the discourse. The venom must come out before teachings can go in. Meanwhile, those people whose hearts were a little polluted gave expression to their feelings of jealousy and anger. All those impure feelings which were inherent in them but had been hidden inside now started coming out. That is just what Sukha wanted, for only after the venom that was in their hearts had come out could the teachings of the Vedanta enter there. If there is nothing inside one's head, then it can be filled with the sacred teachings. But if one's head is already filled with all sorts of impure stuff, how can it take anything pure and sacred in? Without emptying the head of all the useless dross, sacred teachings will never take hold there. So Sukha's wish was that all these baser feelings should manifest themselves and be expressed. He wanted his students to pour out all the dirt and filth which was inside their mind. He knew that as long as their hearts harbored attachments and bad feelings, his teachings would not take hold. So he had then undergo this process of purification. Meanwhile, with a great deal of anxiety, Janaka rushed to attend the discourse. Sukha noted the approach of Janaka. He could be seen coming from a long way off because Janaka did not usually come alone. Although Janaka was not interested in bringing ministers and servants, they would invariably accompany him to provide security and protection to the king. Soon all the people became aware that King Janaka was approaching, entering the area where the discourse was given. Janaka prostrated himself before the Guru and humbly asked his pardon for coming late. Then Janaka spread his grass mat and sat down. Immediately Sukha commenced his discourse. Now in the hearts of the young disciples who had assembled there, hatred fructified. Their faces began changing because of their feeling towards Sukha and King Janaka. Look at this Sukha, they thought to themselves. He only cares about pleasing the king. That is the extent of his Vedanta. The fire that brought out the attachments of the disciples. Sukha decided to teach a lesson to all the people assembled there who were harboring such negative feelings. After some time, he interrupted his discourse suddenly and said, Janaka, look at your kingdom. It is on fire. King Janaka, who had closed his eyes and was totally absorbed in listening to the sacred teachings, took no notice of these words. He had fixed his mind on the Vedanta, and so he kept his concentration only on the Vedanta. The other people who had assembled there saw the flames and smoke rising above the city. Some of the disciples, thinking of their relatives and belongings, began running towards the capital city in the plain below. All the attachments which had lain hidden deep in their hearts now came to the surface and fully exposed themselves. A few moments later, Sukha told King Janaka, Janaka, this fire has now spread to your palace. Even then, Janaka did not take any notice of Sukha's statement. Janaka did not move from his seat. He had the true feeling of complete detachment and indifference to all things worldly. His interest was only in the Atma. Except for this absorption in the Atma, he had no other feeling. Among those in attendance at the discourse were a number of celebrated spiritual teachers having worldwide reputations. Sukha wanted to demonstrate to them that they might be very great scholars, but they had not killed their attachments. When these scholars saw the flames, they were apprehensive. They turned to King Janaka and began praying, O king, please do something about this terrible catastrophe happening below. But Janaka had entered into a state of samadhi. He was enjoying the bliss of the Atma. Tears of joy were coursing down Janaka's cheek. He did not waver for even a moment from the holy thoughts on which he had fixed his concentration. Sukha observed Janka's state and was very pleased. After some time, these disciples who had run away towards the capital returned, reporting that in fact there had been no fire at all. Then Sukha began to explain to the disciples the meaning of all that had gone on. Sukha said, "Well, children, I did not delay starting my discourse for 2 hours because Janaka is the king and therefore a very important man. I delayed because he is a deserving person, a true seeker, and I believe in waiting for such a one. Because he has purged himself of ego and pride, because he has true humility, dedication and detachment, he has the authority to hold up the discourse. You listen, but you do not hear what is said or put it into practice. Therefore, you have no such authority. Instead of teaching hundreds of people who have made no effort in applying these teachings to their daily lives, I can teach at least one person who truly has a right to being taught because he has integrated these sacred precepts into his very life. What is the use of teaching people full of attachment and egoism? It is something like throwing a stone into water. For any number of years, the stone may lie in the water, but it will not absorb even a drop of water. Even if I can get just one person like Janka, it is sufficient for me to go on. Why have useless shining stones in great numbers? If there is at least one gem which is truly valuable, that is enough. Why have 10 acres of barren land if you can have even a small plot that is fertile and abundant in its yield? If one king like Janka can become sacred, then he can transform his entire kingdom and turn it into a sacred realm that will be an example to the whole world. Sukha's intent was to make Janka a sacred king and at the same time to teach a valuable lesson to the conceited disciples who had gathered around him. Through Arjuna, Krishna taught the whole world. Krishna had a similar intent when he taught the Gita to Arjuna. Arjuna was also a sacred person and he had qualified himself for the teachings by his character and his high ideals. Arjuna had control of the senses. He had won a great deal of spiritual power from the penance he had performed. He had to a large extent suppressed his worldly attachment. He had a highly developed intellect and had become skilled in many arts, and he had surrendered himself to Krishna in true humility. Krishna decided that Arjuna was ready for the highest wisdom and resolved to turn him into a truly wise being. With the intention that if Arjuna could be corrected, the whole world would benefit thereby. Krishna took great care to give these sacred teachings to Arjuna. Arjuna had both the capacity and the virtue to rise to great spiritual heights. That is the reason he had been given a number of titles. The Sanskrit word Arjuna means one who is pure. Another title Krishna gave Arjuna was the sacred hearted one. Another was the jewel of man. Arjuna was such a powerful person that he could, if he wanted to, undertake acts which would terrify the entire world. But Arjuna always acted purely in keeping with righteousness. He earned the right to use a powerful weapon which could not be wielded by any other living person of his day. Originally, this weapon belonged to Lord Shiva. This same fearsome weapon, which was originally with Shiva and then with King Janaka in an earlier age in Krishna and Arjuna's time, became the Gandiva. Arjuna's formidable bow. By earning the grace of Shiva, Arjuna was able to obtain this magnificent weapon. In every respect, Arjuna was an outstanding hero, and it was such a noble and righteous human being that Krishna chose to teach the Gita so that the entire world would benefit thereby. It is another It is through your mouth that you offer food to the stomach. Then it is through the stomach that the food reaches the entire body. In the same way as food reaches all the limbs of the body when offered to the stomach, the Gita was given to a pure and selfless person such as Arjuna so that it might reach the entire world. One of Arjuna's name is Parthiva, which means son of the earth. All of you are children of the earth. Since Arjuna may be considered an outstanding representative of all mankind, Krishna felt that the whole world would in time be transformed by converting him into a sacred person. Ordinary actions, detached actions, and sacred actions. Compared to ordinary actions which are done by thinking of yourself as the doer, actions done without any sense of doership will be much greater. But an action that is done with complete selflessness, performed impersonally with the total indifference and without any attachment is greater still. But when the action is entirely offered to the Lord, when it becomes a holy sacrifice, it is even more sacred than all of these. Thus Krishna commanded Arjuna to offer all his acts to the Lord. When Arjuna reached this state of evolution, that is, when Arjuna acted completely selflessly and offered everything he did to the Lord, Krishna began to teach him the Gita. In the primary stage, every human being has to perform actions and actively employed in the task for which he is suited. One needs to perform action in order not to develop laziness. A lazy person is absolutely useless to the world. Swami does not approve or encourage anyone to be lazy. First, you must perform ordinary actions. Then you should enter into the stage where you perform all your actions without any self-interest. Gradually, you transform these actions into yoga. You transform work into worship. This is one of the core teachings of the Gita. The Gita will give you whatever you are ready to receive. It is utterly destroy selfishness. It is to utterly destroy selfishness, egoism, arrogance, pride, possessiveness, attachment, hatred, and other such poisonous qualities that the Gita has taught the truth in so many ways. In the process, it has helped many different kinds of people to develop a sacred nature. The Gita may be compared to a wish-fulfilling tree. Whatever you desire from Gita, it will give. The meaning given to different teachings in the Gita depends on your outlook and stage of spiritual preparation. No one can say that he knows the one correct meaning for a particular verse. No one has the authority to claim that theirs is the only meaning. The Gita teachings apply to every level of spiritual seeker. Therefore, the Gita may be described as the heart of the Vedanta. It is its very essence. The Gita is a treasure chest of gold. The Gita is a flower-strewn path. The Gita is the sport of all earnest seekers and aspirants. The Gita allows them to swim and survive in the sea of worldly life. The Gita helps them to traverse all the obstacles and reach their goal. A person who does not care for the Gita misses the very purpose of life. Whatever be your feeling, the meaning you will derive from the Gita will be commensurate to your level of spiritual development. For example, many of the devotees here will know the Sanskrit chant which is used as an incantation for invoking the blessings of the Lord. Its first line translates to the white-attired Lord. Lord Vishnu is this all-pervasive one. He is omnipresent. He is described as ash-colored. He is also described as having the color of the moon, being whitish, which is the same as saying that he has the color of ashes. He has also been described as having 4 hands and a most pleasing and sacred face, which does not exhibit any feeling of elation or dejection. This is the feeling of believers, and it is in this way that they pray to the Lord. But non-believers may use the very same words, although the image they describe with these words may be completely different. The Sanskrit word that starts this incantation also refers to the one who carries white clothes. In whatever situation you see this one, you find it does not exhibit any feelings. It is as-colored and it has 4 limbs. One can take these attributes, put them all together and say that these words describe a donkey. A donkey will be carrying white clothes from the washerman. It has 4 limbs, an as-colored body and a most patient face. It is not tied down to any place. You can find it roaming in the roads in front of the houses everywhere. This is the meaning given to these very same words by non-believers. So, whether it is the exalted Lord or a lowly ass depends on how you look at it. Whether you are a devotee or a non-believer, and whether you are interested in or oblivious to such spiritual expressions. In the same way, the Gita yields up different meanings to different types of people. Based upon the state of your feelings, each of you will get the meaning which is appropriate to the stage you have reached on the spiritual path. So in this, Gita is a great wish-fulfilling tree. It is a celestial cow giving freely of its milk. You can take from it whatever meaning you like, whatever teaching you are ready to absorb. There is plenty of water in the ocean, but the amount of water you can take away from it depends upon the capacity of the vessel that you have brought to fill up. The water will be the same. The difference will only be in the size of the vessel. Likewise, there may be difference in your feelings, but the Gita is only one. The basic message of the Gita is the same for all. Its sacred purpose is to transform humanity into divinity. You should not take such a holy book lightly. You should approach the Gita with a deep feeling of devotion and commitment. You should chant the verses with genuine feeling and understanding, and you should practice daily at least 1 or 2 of the precepts given here. Only then you will gain complete fulfillment in your life. Developing the inner vision. Whether you are actively working in the world or have withdrawn from it, the most important consideration is not the work that you do or not do, but how effectively you have been able to uproot and destroy the deep-seated tendencies which lie hidden in your heart, embodiments of love. The principal objective of all spiritual practices is the removal of the deep-seated negative thought forms, impure habits, tendencies, and predispositions which in Sanskrit are called vasanas and which have encased themselves deeply within you. They manifest in your thoughts and actions as the twin evils of attachment and hatred, or attraction and repulsion. You must cleanse yourself of all trace of these evils which have harbored themselves inside you. You cannot run from your inner enemies. If you just run away to the forest or to a cave without performing the appropriate exercise to remove your inner enemies, then whether you like it or not, all your latent tendencies will continue to produce thoughts and actions that bind you. These impurities will lie there as seeds in your heart and prompt a stream of thoughts that will be saturated with likes and dislikes, desires and delusions. As a result, you end up forgetting your true human nature. The Gita has shown that if you can root out the entrenched tendencies that cling to your heart, then you are free to perform any action without concern for the results. From that point on, you will not be bound by any action that you may become engaged in. In other words, you will be freed completely from the fruits of your actions. People who do not understand this truth and end up renouncing all outside activities become mild in sloth and laziness. But the Gita has repeatedly warned that there is no room at all for laziness in the world of the spirit. What the Gita teaches is the yoga of impersonal action in which you remain totally detached and free of any personal interest in the work that you do and in the results that accrue from it. It means working with full concentration to the limits of your capacity for excellence, but orienting all your actions to the service of God and remaining established in God consciousness. You will not be able to reach this high stage of desirelessness in your actions and renunciation of the fruits of your labors as long as your vasanas which have arisen from past actions are unfavorable for spiritual progress. Transform all self-serving actions into selfless actions. You must first remove the negative tendencies which have driven all your ordinary self-serving actions that have kept you bound and replace these negative tendencies with positive noble qualities which are associated with beneficial and selfless actions. Then when you are firmly established in the stage of selfless service wherein you perform only good actions, you can go on to the higher stage where you renounce the fruits of all your actions. From there you will naturally rise to the stage of totally selfless impersonal yoga. At that stage, you make sure that all your actions are of the highest purity and then you offer them all up to the divinity to do with as the divinity wishes. What is the inner secret of performing work? It is the Gita's proclamation that only through positive, laudable activities can the negative tendencies be removed. The Gita advises you to be engaged only in good actions so that you will steadily purify your heart, but it goes further than that. It asserts that true purity of heart can be achieved only by dedicating all your actions to the Lord. Every action that you perform must be offered to God. Only then your heart be fully cleansed. Consider an example. When food is eaten after having been cooked and prepared in different ways, it is just ordinary food and you are subject to the good or bad effects of eating that food. However, if special care is taken in the preparations of this food to make sure that it is pure and worthy of being offered to the divinity, and then before consuming it, it is offered with full heart to God, then it becomes consecrated food. From that point on, this will no longer be ordinary food. Consuming it will confirm divine feelings, blessings, for it will be the sacred gift of the divinity. By the same token, all the many activities performed by you during the day fall into the category of ordinary actions. But when you perform these same actions, even if they are just little acts with the intention of making them on an offering to God, devoting their results not to your own pleasure but for the pleasure of the Lord, then your actions become sacred actions. In other words, your karma becomes karma yoga. It is only through such karma yoga that you will be able to rid yourself of all evil tendencies and make your heart pure. Purify your actions before offering them to God. What should be the qualities of the actions you offer at the feet of the Lord? How sacred should they be? Before an object is offered to an ordinary individual, you see to it that it has some utility, that it has some value, that it is pure and that it will be cherished. In other words, that it will be received with joy. That being the case in offering something to another individual, then how much more care should you take in making an offering to the Lord? How very pure and extremely fulfilling it must be. One must not offer all types of objects and all types of actions to the Lord. Before you offer anything to the Lord, you must first make it pure. You must make it sacred and great. Then it will be a fit offering for the Lord. For example, if you want to offer a rose to the Lord, you first select a beautiful fragrant bloom. Then you remove the insects from the flower. Next you remove the thorns and any imperfect leaves from the stem. And in a number of other ways you make your offering as beautiful, as pure as possible. Only then do you offer it to the Lord. Every action you perform should be like this flower which you offer to the Lord. Just as a fine fragrance is inherent in the flower you offer, so also your actions must be saturated with the fragrance of your love and sacredness. Just as the flower that you offer is beautiful and pure, so also your actions must be good and pure. Such is true karma yoga. The Gita prompts you to offer only such kinds of action to the Lord. You must be able to distinguish between wise action and unwise action, and for that you must understand the difference between wisdom and ignorance. You must develop your wisdom until it expands and merges with the cosmic wisdom. The divine wisdom, anyone who wants to directly experience the Lord must develop this wisdom, and along with it a number of important qualities. The characteristics of an enlightened being. These qualities of a person endowed with spiritual wisdom are patience, determination, purity of body and mind, selfless love, and ever-present awareness and yearning for the indwelling divinity, and the six qualities which are known as the spiritual treasures, namely control of the mind, control of the senses, renunciation of selfish desires, endurance, and indifference to all kinds of opposites such as pain and pleasure, and unshakable faith in the sacred teachings, and contentment derived from a steady, unwavering mind. Let us consider the first of these qualities, patience. Patience or forbearance is one of the most important characteristics that every person should practice and possess. Many kings have been destroyed because they abandoned this quality of patience. Even great sages have lost all their spiritual merit because they neglected this quality. Countless scholars have come to ruin because they overlooked this invaluable characteristic. Patience can be thought of as the most important shield and armor for facing the battle of life. You quickly lose all your human qualities if you lose patience. As you have already seen, the quality of patience is an extremely important sign of a great person. Without patience, it would not be possible to become an enlightened person, an enlightened being. A resolute nature, in other words, the quality of determination and being endowed with a firm resolve, is the precondition for developing patience. Now, a resolute nature should not be associated with stubborn foolishness. In matters relating to spirit, firmness and resolute nature refer to a mind that is free from delusion and unsteadiness. Whatever obstacle is encountered, whatever troubles and problem arise, with a resolute nature you will remain firmly committed to pursue the task which you have undertaken until you achieve your final goal. If you do not have this quality of determination, then patience will have no basis and cannot develop in strength. Patience and determination are twins. One cannot exist without the other. Without determination, patience cannot establish itself, and without patience, determination will degenerate into arrogance. Next, let us consider purity. Just as you undertake various actions to purify your body, so also you must undertake various good actions to purify your mind. Through these acts, you can remove the attachments and desires that you have polluted your mind with egoism. Only when these negative qualities are eliminated will you be able to achieve self-control. Just as a tortoise is free from loosen its limbs and come out of its cell, or to withdraw itself back into its cell, in the same way you should be able to control your senses and use them when you need them. The Gita has affirmed that these are also very important qualities of a wise person. So I end this video here. Thank you for watching and listening this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe my channel. Thank you, my dear friends.